what we think would be useful to hear now from John to talk about what are some other kinds of questions about AI that you're working on about.
Sure. Happy to present. I do work at the Aphasia Center of Research Excellence. So I'm lucky to be able to we only research aphasia where I work, which is excellent. So today I'm talking about opportunities. I've put opportunities with a question mark because I think there's lots of good things that AI will bring. I think there's also lots of risks for all of society. So whether overall AI is positive or negative, I think we'll find out, right? Like computers, the internet, smartphones, are they overall positive or negative? I think it's a mixed bag. So today I just wanted to talk through some of the things I think are coming soon that will be really positive. But first of all, just defining what I mean by AI. Most of us think of ChatGPT, which is definitely AI, but it's not the only sort of AI. So ChatGPT, for people who haven't used it, you get a blank box like this, and you can basically ask it to do whatever you like, and it will try. So, for example, I said, please write a four-line poem about aphasia, and it wrote a lovely poem that rhymes, and it's maybe not got the human touch, but it did what I asked. And there's lots of things you can ask it to do. But there are others as well. So ChatGPT is one sort of large language model with the chatbot. And there's Gemini from Google, there's Claude, there's Llama, there's many others. So there's lots of different types. Large language models in a chatbot are part of a branch of AI called natural language processing. And the aim of that is to have computers just understand whatever we say rather than having to use codes and certain sentences. We just talk and it just understands what we say and it generates language back. But there are other branches of AI. So another one is perception, which is where we want computers to understand using sensors like we do. So, if you've got a doorbell that recognizes who's at the door or a person, then that is a form of AI, understanding images and video, just like our vision. Speech recognition is also a form of AI where having computers understand audio. There's also social intelligence, so understanding humans. This is things like guessing what someone's thinking, reading emotions, that kind of social stuff that we all do all the time, teaching a computer to do that. There's also prediction and decision making, so teaching models to predict what's going to happen or to decide the best course of action or to diagnose. That's another branch of AI. Then there's generative AI, which is creating images, videos, and music. You just say, make me a picture of this, make me music that sounds like this, and it generates it. And then there is, perhaps the ultimate goal of general artificial intelligence, which is a computer that can do everything that humans can do, at least as well as us. And we'll see how that turns out if we ever get there. So just worth thinking that AI is not just ChatGPT, it's lots of different branches. So some of the opportunities that I think are coming pretty soon or have already started. One is that AI could help people with aphasia communicate. So for example, a few groups are working on something that listens to what the conversation is about. And if you get stuck, so if you says, oh, but we don't have an AI might be able to jump in and suggest, is some of these the words you want? So it might say, are you looking for the word chance or trailer or shovel? And assuming it guesses the right one, you'd say trailer. We don't have a trailer. Which now to think of it, trailer has a different meaning in the US to Australia. But anyway. So that's one fairly obvious use of AI is to suggest words when you get stuck. And I know for some people with aphasia, that's helpful when people do that. And sometimes it's annoying because it's not the word they want. They could also if you're better at producing words than full sentences, it might be able to help you there. So someone might ask, how's your daughter? And you would type in good college, and it would guess that you're trying to say something like, she's very well, she's at college right now. So turning words into sentences or fixing any errors you might make in your sentences. This is fairly easy for AI to do. We don't really have a way to weave it into conversation, but it can do these tasks. Other ones are assessment. So we looked at a couple of years ago, what have researchers done with AI so far? So we looked at 77 papers, and we found that most of them are actually looking at assessment. So when I say assessment, they might take speech recordings or testing data and then ask AI, does this person have aphasia? How severe is it? What type of aphasia? What errors are being made? So a lot of groups are working on this, but I'm not convinced this is the most important thing to work on in aphasia. I don't know how many of you feel like you really want automated assessment or you actually want other tools. But one that could be useful that Tysonia sort of talked about is measuring progress. So one way to do that is to measure your conversation. Now, at the moment, for a speech pathologist to do this, you have to record a conversation, then you have to transcribe, write out exactly what they said, and then you do some sort of scoring, and then you get a result. AI can kind of do all of that at once. You talk into it, assuming it understands your speech correctly, it will then analyze it very quickly. And that's a much more accurate way of measuring someone's aphasia rather than saying, what's this a picture of? And you're just producing one word. This is conversation. Lots of groups are working on recovery prediction. So if you give test results and maybe a scan of your brain, it will try to predict how likely are you to improve and how long will that take. And it will never be exactly right, but that's something some people do want to know. And then another opportunity, which I think this group would be more interested in, might be better therapy and more practice. So to date, not that many projects have looked at therapy using AI for therapy, which is a shame, but I think we'll see more and more of it. So AI is starting to adjust the difficulty of therapy apps and software. So one example is Constant Therapy, which I know is fairly popular in the US, and it will adjust the tasks you're doing. If you're finding it too easy, it will make it harder. If you're finding it too hard, it'll make it a bit easier, and it tries to adjust it just for you. And it means people can practice their language and do therapy software without a therapist having to change things for you. To get to more automatic therapy, I think AI, and it's already starting, can generate therapy material. So a lot of therapy material has images. So one aphasia test has this line drawing, which an artist had to create, but you can actually have AI produce it. Just say, can you make a picture of a woman drinking from a glass? And it produces an image. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And same here, the woman is painting. Well, you can produce something that's much more lifelike. And maybe that's more likely to get your language, if it's a better picture. For people who find words and sentences and even paragraphs quite easy, but struggle with long things like speeches or reading long texts, I think AI is going to be able to generate longer and longer things for you to practice. So that's very hard for a speech pathologist to produce really long things to work on. But AI can just spit it out and then ask you questions. Did you understand it? Can you say it? So people with milder aphasia often miss out. And I think AI could fill that gap and give them really challenging treatment. If you speak more than one language, you probably have had trouble getting therapy in that language as well as English or whatever your therapist spoke. So AI seems to be very good at translating things, like a lot better than Google Translate. It's a lot better. Not as good as a real translator, but pretty good. And so I think we'll see a lot more multilingual therapy options. Sometimes when you're using software and you're saying things out loud, if you're using therapy software, the app often doesn't have any idea whether you're getting it right or not. But we're starting to see that more and more AI can listen to what you said and work out if that was correct or not. And if it was wrong, it can give you some hints. Conversation practice is something that a lot of people are looking for, and there's a couple of apps that have started using AI for this. So this example, speakable.com, you have a different scenario. So in this one, you go into a coffee shop and you order and you actually speak, and then it listens and it thinks, and then it responds to you. So it's a little bit, all conversation with AI is a little bit slow because it has to think, but it still is good practice at, real life communication. And then the last category, I think, where there's lots of opportunities is just daily tools. So things to make day-to-day life easier. So one thing, again, Tysonia mentioned this, that health information is really hard to understand. Well, AI can simplify things very well. So I put in this terms and conditions from a ticket seller, which is very complicated. And I said, make it aphasia friendly, use emojis and bold the words. And it did that in about 2 seconds. And actually, that's easier for everyone to understand, whether or not you have aphasia. So you can do this now in ChatGPT and similar ones. You can paste in the text and say, can you make this easier for me to understand? Or you can say, make it aphasia friendly. One of our projects that uses AI a little bit is Communication Connect. And we want to see people with aphasia not having to depend on therapists and things like that, but to be able to have the resources they need right there. So we have built a website that we're testing that has as many resources as we could possibly find in one place. And so inside that, there's a category for therapy resources. There's one for life after stroke, emotions and social support, all these different categories. AI adjusts what people see based on what it thinks they'll find useful. So a little bit like Amazon decides what you might like to buy, it does the same thing, but with resources for aphasia. And then last one in our project is the mood compass. So depression and anxiety are really high in aphasia, or more common. And so this app allows people to rate their emotions just using a sliding scale, and the face changes to match how they feel. There's not a lot of wordy questions about, did you feel like this? Did you experience this? It's just like, show us how you feel. And then the AI in this tracks your mood. And if it notices that your mood is going down, it suggests different steps. And if it gets really severe, it will actually say, hey, can I send a text to your carer, or should you see your doctor to manage that? Last thing, and then I'll stop talking. We've all probably had a go at using personal assistants like Siri and Alexa and Google, and then they're not that great, but they are getting a little bit better. But I can picture in future that you can tell the personal assistant that you have aphasia, and you can say things like, you need to speak slowly, you need to use common words, you need to, whatever you need for your aphasia, you can say, this is how you have to talk to me, and it will do that for you. And you can take a photo of something and it will remember, okay, this person has aphasia, I'm going to summarize that for them. So a very personalized personal assistant. And I think that is possibly one of the most useful ways going forward that people will use AI, is it's made for them and it knows about them. So I think, as I say, there are some positives and negatives, but there are positives. I think AI could become a very useful tool for living with aphasia. There'll be more therapy, very personalized therapy, exactly what the person needs, smarter tools, and maybe very personalized assistance day to day.